we joined SaaStock a little while ago and are part of their founder circles. It's been absolutely brilliant for us. We first came into it to further our community, our reach, our network, and to learn from some of the world-class speakers that SaaStock has come and speak. And I have to say, it has been absolutely superb for us.
Welcome to the SaaS Revolution Show. Nigel Verdon, CEO and founder of Railsbank. Welcome, Nigel.
Thank you for the invitation to join. Thank you.
No, great to have you on the podcast. We met a couple of months ago, actually, in Barcelona at SaaStock Local Barcelona. So it was great to see you there. It was a really great event, hosted by our friends at Cladara. Nice dinner afterwards as well. Got lost, I think, once or twice on the way to dinner, but it was very good. But it was nice to have met you in person, and obviously first time as a guest on the SaaS Revolution Show, and then hopefully we'll get to meet later in the year at SaaStock in Dublin. But Nigel, I learned a little bit about you that night in Barcelona, certainly from your talk there and from speaking with you. For the guests that are listening and watching to this podcast, can you tell them a little bit about, who is Nigel Verdon, and gives a bit of background to yourself as a person?
Well, thanks. Yeah, my name's Nigel Verdon, obviously. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Railsbank, 3 times entrepreneur and founder. 2 companies exited, Currency Cloud last year, and first company, which was in 2006, to BA Systems on the FTSE 100. Outside of work, enjoy mountains and skiing, sailing, outdoors and stuff, and I've been music is a major contributor to life. So still play guitar after 40 plus years or so, and I make guitars, collect them as well. So it's sort of a interesting aside from just doing my work as well.
If you could be in any band, what band would it be, Nigel?
You've got to say the Jimi Hendrix Experience, but there's already a good guitar player in there.
Yeah, fair. You might be overshadowed with that one, but I think that would have been my dad's choice as well. Big Jimi Hendrix fan. I think he'd been to a few of his concerts. So,
oh wow,
good shout there. So currently, and I would imagine for the foreseeable future, you are the CEO of Railsbank. Prior to that, you mentioned that you had an exit with Currency Cloud, which we're very familiar with. At SaaStock, exited to Visa, I think, for 963 million. So, pretty great outcome. Can you give us a couple of lessons that you learned, from scaling that business through to exit as a starter for 10, I guess?
Sure. I think one of the real learnings was when we lost TransferWise as a customer. As originated TransferWise through a friend of mine, a guy called Michael Jackson, who was formerly the COO of Skype, and Target worked with him in Skype. And what the observation there was, because we were sitting on top of Barclays, and Barclays then was providing some of the payment infrastructure, foreign exchange infrastructure, and a ton of other things below us. When TransferWise became a certain scale, they moved off, and they moved and went direct into the bank themselves. So it was looking at if somebody goes too big, do they still maintain a customer? So similar sort of way as AWS still powers Netflix. So one of the learning things on at Currency Cloud, which is what we've done differently in Railsbank, is own everything from a consumer all the way through to the central bank, or from a consumer all the way through to the payment scheme like Visa or MasterCard, which is what we've done across the UK and Europe. So you can then operate on scale. You don't have a third-party bank between you and the customer. And the economics and also the difficulty of being a direct clearer, Sterling or principal issue member of Visa MasterCard meant that with Railsbank, it's highly unlikely somebody's going to have the scale to move off you. because why did Netflix still on AWS? Because they just do all the infrastructure for them, all the way down to the cables for the internet. They're not really in the cabling business, but they go right the way down, so the equivalent of that. So that was probably a big learning on the back of that. The other learning was initially we started out and we had a couple of brokerage businesses within it and focusing on foreign exchange for retail customers. And as soon as we met, it's the same thing. As soon as we met TransferWise, Asimo, and others, they realised, especially as TransferWise, because it's back in 2011, that they're a hell of a lot better at doing retail. And a big learning was don't play in retail unless you understand retail. It was a much better place to be an infrastructure player, and that's what Currency Cloud became. We sold the brokerage piece, the retail brokerage piece, to another company in January 2012. So we exited that. So it's know what you're good at is the learning there. Don't try to do too much.
Good advice there. Why, after such a great exit, you know, why do it again and not, I don't know, be a full-time hobbyist or something else?
The other learning is when you sit on an equity stack below participating preferred, you as the ordinary shareholders don't make as much as you possibly should have done if you once in run out. So the learning, it's another learning thing, is make sure you've got good investors that don't play games with your equity stack. And I'm proud to say in Railsbank we've got a very good, clean equity stack. So everybody who's an ordinary shareholder will definitely see a full benefit. That's just one caveat on it. I think the Railsbank is just a far bigger opportunity. We've grown at a much faster pace than Currency Cloud. We've gone global pretty much from day one, and so we've got our volumes. We did Currency Cloud was doing between 1 to 2 billion a month turnover. We now, I think, end of we're in May, in April, we're already done 9 billion of turnover. And we've got 5.5 million consumers stuck on the end. So it's a much, I think, bigger opportunity to be essentially the financial services layer and SaaSify the finance layer of the internet is essentially what we're doing.
Awesome. So you mentioned some of the financial there in terms of turnover. What other data can you share about the company you know, how many people, like capital raise, you know, any other kind of perhaps information that might, you know, help people listening, you know, get a better picture?
Sure. We raised about 110 million of capital so far to date. And the number of people, it's about 470 people at the moment.
And you said global from day one. So obviously the world that we're living in at the moment is kind of a bit remote first, digital first, or certainly that's accelerated. Is it a remote organization? Do they have a head office, you know, in London? What does it look like?
Sure. The head office is in London. We also have offices and presence in Newcastle, primarily as the acquisition of Wirecard with their UK assets. We've got offices in Vilnius, Singapore, Kuala Lumpur, Sydney, and over in the US in Santa Monica.
And how did you get your first customers?
First customers, we marketed the hell out of Railsbank when we set up with a very simple value prop, which was access global banking with 5 lines of code. And we just shouted that from the rooftops, didn't do any paid online stuff because people didn't really search for that in those days. So first customers came to us, and then since then we've had majority, I think it's 85% of our customers have all been inbound. So it's a continual trend. Our first customers, some of the ones like WageStream came, that was an inbound introductions from QED investors who backed them. And some of the early ones like Plum, all inbound and from our network. So they've been great growing with them. So WageStream is now a very successful business. The Cladara, where we met when they're running SaaStock, that was because Brad, who's there, used to work for Railsbank, so that was an easy customer on that.
Yeah. So you're getting inbound, and these are kind of like referrals, but also, I mean, are you doing content marketing or just kind of marketing out there on social, spreading the word about, I guess, the cause of what you're building, and that's creating the inbound interest. Is that right?
Yeah, it's really about the learnings of marketing is first of all solve a pain point that potential customers have. So prospects, people have real world pain point. And the pain point we solve is you don't have to do all infrastructure, you don't have to get your own licensing, and you can start on us, grow on us, and go global on us. And doing that meant you save a ton of money in the millions, and your time to market is massively accelerated. And so we solve a real problem with that. The other way of marketing is marketing a clear value proposition rather than features. And you'll see there's a lot in our industry saying, hey, I do cards, I do issue processing, and I do all that sort of fintech stuff. Nobody actually buys that. People buy stuff that gives them value. And hence we do we've got a massive feature list of everything we do. We do rewards, banking, wallets, cards, credit, and data. But we don't go out to market saying, hey, we do this, and then you figure out what to do. We go clearly for all that. So the sports world, marketing a clear, how do you like to engage with your fans more? Manchester United, you have 1.1 billion fans. If you made 50 cents of even 50% of those, that's a huge revenue stream if you're able to engage with them and use these tools, which happen to be cards, banking, wallet, to drive revenue and use rewards to drive the usage of that, because it offers to the sponsors of Man U, for example. Creating a ecosystem that sits on top of underneath a clear value proposition that solves a pain point for them as well. So that's how we market and how we've gone to market. I think that's also how we got the scale. People ask me, it's all about APIs. I think everybody's got APIs now, even banks have APIs. And APIs are just a mechanism that have been around for years. They've just become much more democratized and accessible and more useful. When sort of like Twitter and others all released their APIs 8 years ago, it just showed, I can do stuff in code and programmatically do things. That's just a standard. It's a table stakes in there. It's about what value do you give, what's the real value prop, and that is why customers come to us.
Beyond, and those are great marketing lessons there, and thanks for sharing those. And in terms of moving from getting the first customers to getting your first 10 million sort of in revenue, anything else, like a couple of things that you could kind of share that really kind of help the business in this phase?
Yeah, it's the thing that really helped right at the beginning is figuring out to let customers buy rather than having to really sell. And we did that with sandboxes. We had 2 sandboxes, one which has fake money, so it's digital sort of money, and it's just so you can play on there, click to agree, and you can see the API works, and you have some playbooks. We then have our real money sandbox where you can actually issue bank accounts, send money to them, send that money out, and that is what the usefulness of that was. Don't believe me and our marketing speak. Go try it yourself. It's click to agree. It's free of charge, and you don't have to sign any NDAs or anything. And by the time our competitors have got somebody to sign an NDA and everything, the prospect has actually got a working neobank up and running in 4 days. WageStream had their free working prototype of WageStream in 4 days. Sing Life, it's about 4 days. They had a full working version of the Sing Life card that they used for dinner that evening. after they sort of had the launch of the prototype internally. So it's really the thing that's helped was the sandbox is just saying, well, just go and have a look and see it working, and prove it works. That it's there, it's not vaporware.
A kind of product-led growth, as it were.
Yeah, it's very much product. You're having a product that works and with playbooks showing you how to use a product. So some accelerators we have, like playbooks, like the sandboxes, with design kits which guide the customer through creating a fully compliant app. So transactions need to look like this. This wording has to be on it, and they can take the basic on the Figma files, put it straight into their app, and bingo, and off they go. So it's acceleration things that help as well.
You mentioned you've gone global from day one. What were the reasons for that? Is it out of necessity that, let's say, some of your customers you mentioned, like Cloudara, are probably or certainly doing international business, so that they need an international partner? But if you can share us why did you go international from day one or global, and what were some of the learnings and maybe even challenges there?
The challenges is operating global business is actually quite difficult, as we found out. So that's one of the sort of scaling issues that we've worked through and handled and stuff, and are still learning as well. It's customers. Customers have ambition, and their ambition, like WageStream, is to be a global wage advancing platform, not just in the UK. And so, having been able to work in us in UK, Europe, Singapore, United States, and Australia, and day one it was UK and Europe, was meaningful to a customer to say, so okay, if I just got one API and one connectivity and one contract, I can now go into new territories, and I don't have to rebuild everything again. So I go to Eurozone, I go to Sterling Zone, I go to dollars, etc. So that was it was really, it matched the ambition of our customers that they wanted to work with us.
Makes sense. And if we move on to, I guess, kind of like what's happening in the sort of the market now, and if we look at even the sort of last couple of years, what are your thoughts around like growth at all costs or versus sustainable revenue growth? Which one kind of more sort of resonates to you in terms of running and scaling the businesses that you have and are currently scaling?
So it depends also on market conditions at the time. If there's a very bullish market like there was from 2016 to 2020, 21, into 22, 22 was massively bullish. You can scale it at all costs because there's plenty of capital around there. In the current conditions, we've got 3 years ahead of us that nobody knows what's going on. You've got inflation, geopolitical issues, war. You've got rising fuel prices are also driving inflation. Food prices are going up, and it's driving inflation. So I've had conversations with heads of investment banking of various banks, some chief economists at various places. And you've got Goldman calling the Standard & Poor's S&P 500 at 4,700 when it's around 3,900 or something at the moment. Is that ever going to get there? Nobody actually knows is the conclusion. Okay. So if there's a nobody knows market, the playbook is very much about sustainable revenue growth and sustainability of metrics like dollar ARR per head, the dollar burn per new dollar ARR gained. And so it's all about efficiency in this type of market and extending out runway through being highly efficient, dumbing down on core product, fixing any gaps in operations. And it's almost like a breathing space to focus so you can then pile on more growth if markets come back again. But you still continue to grow in these markets, but it's a sort of do more with less mindset as well.
Yeah. Sometimes it's a good opportunity for a bit of a spring clean as such, and just kind of making sure I think as you say, just being operationally efficient and do more with less, and just be a little bit leaner, but still go for growth. And so it's not about slowing down necessarily, maybe like slightly slowing down, but still, going for the growth, right?
Yes, exactly. I think I was just on a call with somebody, and they had a great phrase. It's not my catchphrase, but it was scale back to scale up. And coming on to your spring clean, they also use the analogy of different seasons. You've got to figure out how you work in different seasons. And like in spring, you cut back all the sort of dead side of parts of a plant or tree, so all the growth can concentrate on the good pieces. And so those analogies are actually quite interesting.
No, definitely some good analogies there. And what about like in terms of, I guess, the time that you've been CEO of Railsbank and Currency Cloud? What's been really the biggest challenge or obstacle that you've had to overcome that you can think of that you're happy to share?
It's really about having to reconfigure the company depending on what the market conditions are, and that's a challenge because you've got a strategy in markets like the second half of 2022, so second half 2021, which have been incredibly bullish, and you configure a company to do that. The hardest thing is you've got to reconfigure everything and you've got to do it fast and make sure people still maintain motivation and direction. But you can't continue doing a strategy when a market changes. You can't change the market. The market is the market. And so you just got to make some very hard decisions and decide, yes, that was a nice project we're working on and we'd love to have had it, but we've got to say no. And so there's a lot of saying no and keeping people motivated while they're thinking, oh gosh, it's all the fun's gone, but the fun hasn't gone. We're still in a direction, a growing business, and just working in that. So it's keeping people motivated through change is probably one of the hard things of the job.
What things do you or do Railsbank do then to kind of keep people motivated and kind of focused and maybe not too just aware, but not too distracted on, what's going on around them?
It's be transparent with why you're doing stuff and changing things. That's the first thing. And at all hands we do each month, every question asked, we will answer off the hoof and give us answers that are as totally honest about situations and everything, rather than trying to hide behind anything or hide behind corporate speak. So the key thing is be transparent with people. That's a useful thing. Number two, and explain why. If people understand why we're making some changes, because people naturally just don't like change. So some people, other people love change. But if you take time to explain why and all the measures, and it's considered with as good as decision making as you can have, given the data you have at the time. That is how to get through, and people understand the why, the reasoning, and the decisions. That helps keep the motivation up, because it's not like in a black box. We now change direction, now get on with it. So it's like everything. It's all about people. People make things happen. People stop things happening.
We just learned about, let's say, the biggest challenge that you've had to sort of overcome. Certainly, we're running Railsbank and Currency Cloud. But what would be the hardest thing that you would say about being a CEO? Just kind of maybe on a day-to-day basis, or just thinking about the role in general. What is the toughest thing that you could pinpoint about being a CEO?
Toughest thing is everybody else has somebody to go to ask and get the decisions and ask for a pay rise and all that type of thing. And the CEO can actually be quite a lonely job. And so it's good having mentors and others to help on that. So the decision does stop with you, and sometimes you have to make the decisions. Ideally, make them as a team, but sometimes you just got to make a call and say, we are going over here, here's the reasons why, and driving it forward. So it's everything stops with you. It's a responsibility. It's hard, but have mechanisms. My advice is have mechanisms. I've got a very good NED I spend time with every week called Chipper Boulas, who's head of strategy at eBay and ex-McKinsey partner, and we talk and bounce ideas through with people. So that's important. Communication is everything. All my direct reports always have one-to-ones every week with them. And best thing is if there's a thing to talk through, you talk through it rather than spend all the time on Slack and everything.
Yeah, no, great advice there. Big believers in support networks for CEOs. I'm sure other roles as well, but specifically for CEOs here at SaaStock. What would you say would be the secrets to your success if you could bottle it and sell Nigel Verdon success? I don't know, ointment. What would be in it?
Don't give up and have determination is one thing, and be super clear on the direction. We're going here and we're going here. This is the reason we're going here, and why the pot of gold is over here and not over there. That's important. Other one is try and get out of the way of highly competent managers that you've got running parts of the business. Be there when needed. Otherwise, get out of the way and let me get on with it.
Good advice there again. And how do you stay healthy and sane? On your journey as such.
I do my 10,000 steps a day. That's one thing. Eat well is super important. Decent food rather than junk food and stuff. And mentally, just make sure that they all joke at me because I have my 7 in the evening gin and tonic just to get out the door and just get away from work for a little while so you can actually switch off. Reading is important. Another thing, playing guitar, and things that take your mind off the work. Is if you totally spend time focus, you can get into a bad place. Other things, if I don't need to be on a call, I take the call on headphones and walk around on the call rather than sitting at the desk in front of Zoom all day. So if I don't need to be on Zoom, and the same with my team, we have stand-up every morning with the leadership team, and some of them are walking their dogs, some of them are doing whatever. It's a catch-up and it's a talk. We just get through various things on top of mind and then get on with the day. But as I say, it's people are walking around, some in a coffee, some may be driving, but we do talk, and that's important.
No, it's a good, well, again, good advice there. One that I certainly, or medicine that I don't take, but I should do more of, because I find myself being on Zoom all day, but actually I don't know if I could take both dogs out, but even just going out there and walking along the coast and having many of these meetings, we don't need to be necessarily seeing each other, and that can become quite tiring. So getting some steps in at the same time sounds like a bit of good advice for sure. And how many hours a night do you manage to sleep?
Normally, I'm normally up early. I'm normally up at just before 6. I'm in bed probably around midnight-ish. So it's about 6 hours.
Okay. 6 hours. Yeah. Surviving in 6 hours, you don't need any more than that.
No, I find if you've got food and decent food and a good diet, and you've got some exercise in, that actually makes you sleep better. The whole sort of walking up and down and getting, even on flat, it's the body sort of like has its own sort of internal massage from just walking and the cadence of it. So all that helps, and decent food and lots of water as well. That keeps everything working.
No, definitely. And your last question, Nigel. You're speaking at SaaStock in Dublin this October, so excited to get you over. It's our first SaaStock since 2019. Obviously, the hiatus because of the pandemic. Do you know yet? It might be a little bit early what you're speaking about. The kind of first part of the question, and second part, I know that you quite like sort of Dublin, a bit of heritage there. What is your favourite thing about Dublin, or a good tip that you could give to people whilst out there?
Well, I don't actually know what I'm speaking about yet. It'd be interesting to have a conversation, seeing what your audience are interested in, so we can just tailor it to them. So let's chat later on that. Dublin, it's it's just go out and enjoy. It's there's lots of fun places. There's lots of interesting stuff to see. Spend time walking down the Liffey and think of the sights. Don't try and read James Joyce because it's unpenetrable and things.
Good stuff. Yeah, so excited for that, and we'll obviously speak soon regarding the content piece. But Nigel, lots of great lessons, learnings, advice there, and obviously great success throughout your career. Really kind of appreciate you coming on the show, sharing that with the SaaStock community on the SaaS Revolution Show today.
Great, thank you for the invitation, and look forward to chatting later and visiting Dublin for SaaStock.
Definitely. Thanks so much.